Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today what I've got on the table is a whole lot of mouse guns. And mouse guns is a category of guns that sometimes doesn't get a whole lot of respect, but there's really a good place for it. But you've heard it all, I won't carry anything less than a 45, friends don't let friends carry mouse guns, that whole thing. But it's very often that you're going to be dressed in such a way or otherwise in conditions where your trusty old 1911 that you normally like to carry just isn't going to work. So you're going to need something like this. And it wasn't too long ago that the field for smaller, deep concealed guns was pretty barren. You were stuck with 25 or 32 or 22 even. And that's not true anymore. There's quite a diversity of guns available in very competent calibers. Now, I would love to snatch this thing off my ankle and see the look on the face of the armed robber that's trying to mess with me. It's just not practical. So let's talk about these mouse guns. All of these have been safety checked twice by Hammer and I, so I'm not going to bore you with checking every one of them as I touch it. And we're not going to rattle off a bunch of specs and numbers on every one of these guns. We've got full reviews on each one of these. We'll put the list of links in the description. So if one of these catches your interest, you can look at the full review. So let's talk about these guns in general, how they fit into the picture, and how they're different from each other. Let's start with kind of the outliers. Something like this Bond Arms, which this one is the backup 45 model. Comes in a bunch of different configurations, different size grips. These are a little larger grips. But the characteristic of this is it holds 2 rounds. But it's 2 rounds of this one's 45 ACP, or 10 millimeter, or 410. So if you really got to have your 45, or your 410, or something like that, you're willing to have a little bit fewer rounds, something like this will get the job done. Mostly it's a get-off-me gun. It's got sights, but they're really not all that effective. You're pointing this in the general direction of something that's giving you trouble and pulling the trigger. So you are giving up some functionality over a larger gripped gun that actually has real sights and is more aimed at some targets that are further away. Then of course we cannot forget the revolver guys. If you carry a revolver, maybe you carry a 44 Magnum or a 357, but today you got to carry something small, don't want to change your manual arms. Something like this Smith & Wesson 642 Airweight gives you 5 rounds of 38 Special in a super light, super compact package, and there's different grips and things like that available. So you can still stick with that pattern that you're used to and carry something like this on your ankle, whether it's the only gun you're carrying at the moment because of what you're dressed with, or if this is a backup gun, they're a very viable option. Then you can move into getting into the semi-automatic realm and some of the things that are available in that territory, such as the smallest of the semi-automatics in a competent caliber, which are these cars. This is the P380 and this is the PM9, and these both come in like a CW series that's a little less expensive. These are a bit on the pricey side, but you can get these in a cost that's competitive with the rest of these in the CW series. Now the characteristic of this particular type of gun is I've actually got some real sights. So I can possibly shoot at a target where I need to be a little more precise. So I'm now moving into things that can actually be aimed, and in the 9mm I've got a 3-dot set of sights. And many of these are available with night sights and other options like that. The triggers on these typically are DAO trigger, and they're a little bit on the heavier side and a little on the longer side. But that's not that bad. That's actually quite a nice trigger. A little bit long, a little bit heavier than maybe a Glock, but nice and smooth. And if you look at the 9mm variant, roughly the same trigger. Now you can get these cars in a larger frame gun in 9mm or 45 or things like that, not in the super small territory. So you can have your primary gun and your backup gun, or dress different day gun, operate the same. So you're not kind of locked into this or that. Moving up the scale a little bit in size, not necessarily in functionality, are these Rugers. You've got the LCP and the LC9, and the LCP is the 380. Now this one is the LCP Custom, and then they also came up with an LCPS and an LCP2. And the biggest difference is they've improved the trigger. The original LCP had a pretty horrible trigger. The custom has got a fairly nice trigger. It's consistent somewhat with like the cars. And the LCP2 is an even nicer trigger than this. These tend not to have the greatest sights, but you actually do have real sights. They're not as easy to see, but they're there. And when you get into the LC9, this one has a fairly nice trigger as well. This is an LC9S, so it's the striker-fired variation of it. And that actually has pretty nice sights. So now you're into something that you could actually, engage a target more effectively than somebody that's actually already gotten on top of you. And if you're carrying something like one of the larger full-frame Rugers as your primary, and this is your backup, you got that consistency again. But you carry a 1911. You're a 1911 guy. We've got a SIG P238 and 938. 238's a 380, 938's a 9mm. Now these aren't actually 1911s, but they follow the 1911 manual of arms. And they've got a nice, smooth operating slide. It's a very easy slide to operate. And you've got the interchangeable grips. They have the no grip safety. They don't have the 1911 grip safety, but they do have the thumb safety. And they do have that single action only cocked and locked type setup like you would have with a 1911. And they've got a very short, crisp trigger. So if you're carrying a 1911 in 45 as your primary carry, but you need that deep conceal, but you don't want to retrain, you don't want to completely go to a different operating mechanism, you've got something like this. There's many manufacturers that make this style gun, but SIG has really kind of cornered the market on 1911 operating pattern in every size, shape, color, imaginable. This one comes in probably a dozen different color patterns and themes, and various different grips that you can get. And one thing I did kind of fail to mention is capacity. Obviously the Bond Arms is 2, and that's the end of that. The 642 is 5, and most of these are 6 or 7, the 6 or 7 rounds. So you aren't really high on capacity. When you do get into the automatics, of course, you have the replaceable magazines, so you can carry a backup mag. And typically, when we're carrying a gun in this category, we do carry a backup mag. Once you get up into the larger guns, and you can move into the 8, 9, 10, or get a double stack and move up into even higher capacity. So you are giving up some capacity in this territory, but you still have a competent caliber. Now, Glock has been one of the ones that have kind of took a long time to get into the concealed carry market. You've got the 42 and the 43. This 42's got a laser on it, but if you were to get it without the laser, because that's an add-on, it would look just like this. And it's that typical Glock methodology of, if you fired one Glock, you fired them all. And there's some advantages to that. You carry a Glock, let's say you're a police officer, you carry a Glock 17 outside the waistband all day. At night, when you go out, you want to carry a Glock, but you've got to have it concealed carry. There you go. It works just like a Glock. That nice crisp Glock trigger with the short reset that Glock is known for, and the U-dot sights. And I know they're contentious. Some people love them, some people hate them, but you got to admit you can see them, and they do actually work quite well. And this little fella here, we were banging away at a gong that was pretty good range downrange. It's about 80 yards downrange, and tickling that gong with this thing. So you're no longer in get off me territory when you get up into any of these larger guns. You're actually able to aim them and hit what you're looking at. If 9mm is your bag, you're going up a little bit in size, but you got the Glock 43. And interestingly enough, the Springfield XDS is about the same size as the Glock 43. And the XDS is available in 45, 940 and 45. So that you can actually have a 45. But if we're talking about mouse guns, when you get up to these, you're starting to get a little closer to rat than mouse. They're not all that tiny, but being single stacks, they're thin, they're lighter by virtue of that, and they are small enough to stow in a pocket, stow inside the waistband. This one here I pocket carry it all the time. So anytime I can't pocket carry my Glock 26 or my Glock 29, I pocket carry this without any difficulty, or throw it inside the waistband if I really have to keep it out of sight. So I started out with, kind of your outliers, and then of course your revolvers, which are far from an outlier. Revolvers are still very relevant today. And then kind of worked my way up from the smallest on up to the the largest in the field. And all of these I would feel comfortable with defending myself with from the caliber perspective and a functionality perspective, provided I liked the particular gun. I like 1911s, I think they're cool, but I don't carry a 1911 or operate a 1911 on a regular basis, so I probably wouldn't carry this. Not that there's anything wrong with it, not that this isn't an excellent firearm and highly reliable, but I'd be changing my manual arms. If you see me, you're going to see me with a Glock. You see somebody else who has carried 1911s all your life, that's what you're going to see them with. But if you see any of these, don't discard the concept of having a mouse gun for deep carry or backup. They're actually quite relevant today and quite capable. And if anybody knows where I can get an ankle holster for this thing, I'd love to find one, but I've had a little bit of trouble getting one. Maybe it'd be a kind of a knee holster. Beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, check us out on Facebook, and have a great day. Thank you.